Hello guys, how are you doing today? Coming to you live after Easter. How's your Easter been? I wanted to come live. Well, I always want to come live. It's just a case of having that kind of what I would feel to be a perfect moment when all the stars align, and then it's time for me to come live and to deliver a message for you. So today's message is in response to a couple of posts I've been doing. Okay, guys, I feel like my voice is awakening in terms of getting a bit more fierce with my message. So as you know, my message is all about the menopause, okay? And it's like, I just don't know why my passion for it is so strong when I'm nowhere near the menopause. I mean, yeah, okay, I'm 42. You might say, oh, you're going to start perimenopause, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere near it. And hopefully my teachings will help me sail through the menopause. So what is menopause? Okay, guys, you've heard me talk about this so much, but let me tell you, okay, what stoked this fire within me today. Okay, I saw a post someone did, and it was basically a course where it was teaching people, it was, I don't know, like teaching professionals how to have better skills at dealing with menopausal clients, right? And I just took one look at that course and I just thought, I bet you every single thing in that course is wrong. And this is what really just makes me so mad, angry, passionate, lights a fire in me, that it doesn't help. Okay, so menopause can be a time of great suffering for many women, and it truly does not help when all the information we're given is wrong as well. Okay, it just adds to the confusion and it adds to the suffering. Bear with me a sec. Darlings, I'm sorry, I have to take your water off you while I'm talking on you, because you always want to drink when I'm talking, and I just need you to wait for 5 minutes. Okay, there it goes. Right, guys, yeah, so who's watching with me? Tina Harvey. Hello, Tina. So Tina responded to my post on Facebook yesterday, which was greatly appreciated, because I've got to be honest, I've been saying this message for years. Okay, guys, I've been saying this message for absolute years, but I feel like something's changed within me, and maybe now people are hearing it more, and it's kind of like, you know, I think before maybe I was scared that, like, if I said something bold, people wouldn't like me, and then people would argue on my post, and I'm just like, I kind of take the exact same attitude as I do with my toddler. It's like, ignore the bad behaviour and feed the good. Like, what kind of behaviour do I want to see from my toddler? Then I praise that behaviour and I simply ignore the tantrums and I simply ignore the bad behaviour. Not that he's badly behaved, I don't think that that's a thing for toddlers, but anyway, I just don't feed the behaviour I don't want to see, and I feed the behaviour I want to see. So that's what I'm going to do on my posts now, guys. If anyone wants to comment negative stuff on my posts, I'm just going to simply ignore it, and I'm just going to focus on you guys, because you guys hear me loud and proud. So it's all about, all right, I'm going to tell you what it is from the very beginning, okay? All right, it's about yin and yang, okay? So this is Be More Yin. So yang is activity, it's active, it's doing. Life is very yang. So the yang is the masculine energy, okay? And the yin is the feminine. And in the body, the yang is the hot, dry energy, and you could even think of it as light. And the yin is the fluids, okay? So like, think of the sun, think of the sea. The sun is the utmost yang, and the sea is the utmost yin. And then throughout all of life, we get varying degrees of yin and yang, okay? It shows up in night and day. It shows up in hot and cold. It shows up in winter and summer. And then we're in the equinox time at the moment where everything is in perfect balance. And this is what we want in life. So I'm not saying yang is bad. I'm not saying masculine energy is bad. What I'm saying is life is too yang already. Life is very yang. And not life in the natural world, okay? If we observe nature, And if we observe any and all other species, they all seem to manage to keep a balance. And they all seem to manage to live in tune with the seasons. And they all seem to manage to know when to hibernate and when to get active and when to have babies and when to do what. We're the only species that have lost that. And it's not the nature that's out of balance, it's human beings and modern living that basically creates all of our so-called hormone imbalances, okay? So for women, particularly, we need to focus on yin. We need to cultivate yin, okay? Have a practice, okay? So this is how you do it. I'm going to skip right to the end in case you haven't got time right now to watch it all, but I would hope you would. And if you haven't got time to watch it now, I'd hope you'd watch the replay. But let me skip right to it, okay? Have a daily practice. Have a daily practice of yin. And that will cultivate your yin. So what is yin? It's body fluids, okay? So yang energy is hot and yin is cool. And yang is kind of like, when we become too yang, it's like we become like a desert. We become hot and dry internally, okay? And it's like, in Chinese medicine, the aging process itself is that process of becoming hotter and drier, okay? So there's no wrong in it, but how do you counteract the hot and the dry? You add more yin. So if you were like Jesus, walking through the desert in your sandals, and then you stumble across an oasis, the oasis is the yin, okay? So have an oasis in your day. Have a daily altar of yin, your daily oasis, where you come and you sit and you drink of the cooling waters of yin. And you sit in the shade and you be still and you become present and aware, and you notice the silence, and the silence begins to fill up your very being. And the silence is the most fulfilling and nutritious and hydrating force. It's the yin. So this like spring, this wellspring starts to bubble up from within you, okay? And starts to flow like a fountain of yin. And it starts to overflow. And as it overflows, it recirculates. And so you end up tapping into this inner reservoir of this never-ending yin, because yin is half of who you are. So it's not like it's not there, and it's not like you don't have access to it, but if you don't cultivate it, you will lose your awareness of it, okay? And by losing your awareness of it, you get swept up into the busyness of life. And so this is what I see in most women I've worked with over the decades. En masse, women are constantly busy, never, like literally feel guilty for sitting down, okay? Put everyone else's needs before their own, have zero boundaries, and I really do believe that it all boils down to self-love. Why do we do that, okay? It's a phase of life. So motherhood is the phase of life that precedes the menopause. And so in modern living, we've been left on our own to be mothers, to run the house and to have jobs and to look after aging parents. And, you know, when we look at the kind of, again, if we go back to looking at nature and looking at other species and how they do it, they seem to not have lost touch with the innate knowledge and understanding of how this all works, okay? And the human beings, when we were living in tribes and when we were living in communities, it takes a village to raise a child, okay? Let alone more than one child, let alone having a full-time job on top, okay? And then what starts to happen, because a lot of people will say to me, oh, you know, and my husband's like a child as well, all right? Now that is another subject for another day. But what that really boils down to is that all this over busyness and overwhelm and over yang puts us in masculine energy. It puts women into masculine energy. And then when the woman becomes the masculine force in the relationship, the man switches into feminine. And so the man starts to lean back and receive from the woman. And so the woman steps forward and gives more and more and more and more from this empty well, and then becomes resentful of all the people she's overgiven to. And then that creates frustration and anger, which heats up the liver. And then the liver heat sets the heart on fire. And then you get this. So this is like taking it to its zenith now, okay, guys? But ultimately, in Chinese medicine, these are the patterns. This is what's happening. You're already becoming hotter and drier as you age. And then the busyness burns up your yin, okay? So for example, I'm going off on loads of tangents. I know I do this. I apologize. But if I don't say it when I'm thinking about it, I'll forget. So basically, right, women often try to lose weight by reducing calories and increasing activity, okay? And all that really does is burn up your yin, okay? So if your body hasn't got enough calories, hasn't got enough energy, hasn't got enough nutrients and nourishment to function, it will start burning up your yin resources. And the yin is the body fluids, so it'll burn blood. And within the blood is the hormones. They're just chemical messengers that are being carried around the body by the blood. And so anything that's in the blood will be burned as an energy resource. So then you end up blood deficient. Blood is yin, and on and on and on. Okay, so the cooling fluids are on the decline anyway. We add to that, and then we create this immense heat. And this heat rises into the head, okay? And then it basically creates what we would think of as mental health issues, okay? So in Chinese medicine, we call it Shen disturbance. Your Shen is your soul, it's your consciousness, it's your awareness. Hi Roxy. It's your awareness, okay? It's your soul. And so it ultimately, and that is yang, okay? And it ultimately, well, ultimately the soul is yin, but anyway, that's another subject for another day, right? But think of your consciousness for the purposes of this discussion as yang, bright, light, white, energy, hot, essence, needs to root down into your blood, and your blood is yin, okay? So when you look at the yin and yang symbol, you see perfect balance. That's what we're aiming for, okay? So we need enough blood and enough yin so that the soul can root in. And if it can't, because you haven't got enough blood, because you've burned most of it up, then you get this floating consciousness that cannot root. And then you've also, going back to what I said a couple of minutes ago about, you know, the heat, the resentment, heating up the liver, which then puts the heart ablaze. And then you get heart fire blazing. It would be what we would class as mental health issues, okay? And so that can look like severe insomnia, that can look like anxiety, that can look like you name it, okay? And all of this, it starts with the yin, okay? And so ultimately, okay, I gave you the solution right there at the beginning. You need a daily practice, okay? You need a daily practice to cultivate your yin, okay? And because the essence of yin is stillness and silence, the more still and silent you become on a day-to-day basis, the more that kind of, the yin itself will actually manifest into your body fluids, okay? So we all know that manifestation is something unseen becoming physical matter, okay? And so the yin and the yang in your kind of like consciousness basically manifest as the body. And so the yin aspect of you, your soul, your consciousness, manifests as the body fluids, which gives, and the yin also is the feminine energy. It gives life all of its juice. It gives life all of its hydration, okay? All of its juiciness. Then it will manifest as more fluids in your body. And then the more fluids you have available in your body, the more that will ultimately root the yang and cool the heat and keep you grounded and keep you present and keep you sane, okay? So what have we talked about in this video? We've talked about the fact that women en masse don't do this, okay? And how it boils down to the fact that ultimately we need to love ourselves enough. We need to love ourselves enough to give ourselves that space every day to be more yin, okay? Now, if you work with me, you already know that I recommend 20 minutes 3 times a day is your ultimate kind of gold standard practice, okay? But if you can't manage 3 times a day, 20 minutes, because I know for myself personally, since having the baby, life has changed a lot, okay? Ultimately, at least 20 minutes a day, if not twice 20 minutes, and gold standard 3 times 20 minutes. You would take that 20 minutes first thing in the morning when you wake up. You take it again when you're switching from work to home life, so you can switch modes, and then you take it one more time before bed. And my recommendation would be don't lie down in bed when you do it, because you will just fall asleep. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, you want to be, what sets this apart from sleep, okay, is deep rest, but it's conscious aware rest. So it's rest that you get to enjoy. It's being fully awake during your rest. So you can go to sleep and be unconscious, and then you can feel like you've only just closed your eyes and the next thing is morning, and you can still feel exhausted, okay? So there's 7 different states of consciousness, okay? We've got 3 first states of consciousness that most human beings are aware of, and most human beings on this planet will only ever be aware of the first 3 in their lifetimes, okay? You've got waking, like we're in now, you've got sleeping and dreaming, okay? So the dreaming state is like you're asleep, but you're active, like there's something happening, okay? So there's healing happening, which is basically what dreams are. There's stress clearing from your nervous system. And so your body's asleep, but your mind, no, hang on a sec. Your mind is asleep, but your body's awake, because the body is actually healing. So there's a lot of activity going on in your body, but your mind is asleep when you're asleep and dreaming. And then you could be like unconsciously asleep. Excuse me a sec. Still got a little bit of post-nasal drip from my sinus infection, which went away last week. But anyway, back to the story. So you've got waking, you've got sleeping where you're unconscious, and you've got dreaming where your mind is asleep but your body's awake, because a lot of healing and stress processing is happening, okay? And then the 4th state, which only a percentage of humanity will actually experience in this lifetime, is called Turiya in Sanskrit. And what it is when your mind is awake and your body is asleep. And that's the state we want to be in to be more yin. That's what the meditation practice is really all about, okay? So I would not recommend listening to guided meditations, not that there's anything wrong with them, and I use them myself, but for the purposes of your yin practice, your daily cultivation of the yin, it's still silent, you're consciously aware, and the mind is still, and it's so filled up with its awareness of now, the reality of the present moment, that the body goes into a deeply relaxed state, okay? So the body is still and the mind are still, but you're clearly awake and you're, you know, present, you're sharp, you're here, and your senses are filled up with the now. But it's an internal, okay? So the yin is the inside. If we think of it in terms of the body, the yin is the internal and the yang is the external. So when our senses are engaged, our attention's being pulled outwards, that's yang. And when we go in, we're actually becoming more yin, okay? So when you do this daily meditation practice of being more yin, there comes a moment in a few weeks' time of practicing this where the yin state takes over. And so instead of being like, okay, I'll use an analogy, driving on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, that's yang. You've been driving on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, you take your foot off the gas and you're still going for a while because of the momentum that's been built. That's what it's like when you're too yang, and then you try and do some meditation, but you can't switch your mind. Okay, I started this video with 3/4 of a battery, and I haven't been going long, and now apparently my battery's dying. Okay, but hang on a sec, I'll just plug myself in. There will come a moment a few weeks into your yin practice when you've made it your priority, okay, where the yin will take over, okay, and then you can be more yin throughout the day. So even as I'm recording this video now, even as I'm talking to you now, my attention's turned and is resting inward. So I'm being more yin even as I go about my activities. And that's where we want to get to. That's when perpetual healing will be taking place. That's when the nervous system is calm, regulated. We're not triggered as easily, okay? Now, when we sit down and do our 20-minute closed eye practice, during that 20 minutes, a lot of stuff may clear out. Just the same as when you're asleep at night and you're dreaming and you've got all this activity going on. This might happen during your 20-minute sit, okay? And that's a good thing because that's where the healing's happening. That's where the nervous system is releasing the stress, and that's where the healing is happening. And then you go about your day, and then something that would normally trigger you doesn't trigger you because you took your 20 minutes earlier in the day and the stress was cleared. Okay, so David Hawkins, Dr. David R. Hawkins, talks in his book Letting Go, which is one of the greatest books of all time, about how we're all like this pressure cooker. We're all like pressure cookers walking around, and there's all of this pent-up emotion inside that is just waiting for an external event to trigger it so that it can let off steam. But what usually happens when people get triggered is they don't let off steam and they actually build up even more of the pent-up emotion, okay? And this is what we're seeing en masse, okay, in the kind of collective, right? Whew. Okay, there was one other thing I wanted to say about motherhood being the life phase that is the precursor to menopause. And so we've got this overwhelming state of almost like not being allowed to rest when you're a mother, okay? I know this, I've only got one child and he's angelic, and I still find that it's difficult to take as much yin as I know I need and would like. But when you get to this point where the yin takes over, you're yin all the time. You're in the present moment. It's conscious present moment awareness. That's the state of yin. Okay? And you're completely present with your children, and you're completely present with your work. And there's just this perpetual healing happening at all times, okay? And that is what I'm here to teach women, okay? As well as the masculine-feminine dynamic, which is ultimately the same as yin or yang, okay? So in the context of Chinese medicine, it's more taught in terms of health, okay? Which is very much where my menopause training comes in. And then from the kind of Western perspective of the masculine and feminine dynamic, we can see that helping in relationships and in business and in spiritual awakening, okay? In consciousness itself, okay? What else do I want to say about that? Yeah, all right, so let's go back to what I said at the very beginning about this post I saw about somebody teaching professionals about the menopause and how I bet you everything they're teaching in that course is wrong, okay? This is where the Chinese medicine kind of understanding of menopause comes in. Because it's actually, from a Chinese medicine perspective, it actually begins in the womb. When you were in your mother's womb, the menopause had already started, okay? So it is not a one-time event. It's not one day where you haven't had a period for a year. It's not even, like I was saying, most of the so-called menopause, perimenopause symptoms are actually caused by stress, exhaustion, and the fact that we're too yang and not enough yin, okay? And because we're women, we're cyclical by nature, okay? So I would highly recommend getting clued up on your menstrual cycle, okay? There are several books I would recommend that help you to understand the different weeks of your cycle. And there are weeks of the cycle where you need to be resting more, and weeks of the cycle like the one I'm in right now where you're superwoman, okay? And you can actually do it all. But to try and do it all the time is where women fall down, okay? And then in my view, to then just like blame all the symptoms on hormones and then try and go and find a quick fix solution, as in like, you know, HRT, to just fix that so I can keep going, that's not... Menopause is an invitation. It's an invitation to reclaim your womanhood. It's an invitation to awaken spiritually. It's the final transformational gateway before death, okay? And when death comes, there's no going back. The ego dies. So what are you taking with you at the time of your death? All of your evolution from this lifetime. So the menopause is the final chance to wake up and evolve, okay? It's not about just plastering it over and keep going the way that we have been, okay? So the fact that motherhood precurses menopause, I think, is hugely key for women to understand. I found something at Christmas time which hadn't been on my radar until then, but it was basically about mother rage, mum rage, or there's a book actually called Mom Rage. And I started listening to some of the YouTube videos where the author has obviously been on chat shows or been interviewed on podcasts. And I started listening to a lot of these around Christmas time. And I really thought this is a massive piece of the puzzle, because as women who are busy and overwhelmed and overstretched, we do find our kind of patience wearing thin at times, okay? And when we have this daily practice in place, it's a time to cultivate all of the qualities of yin. And so one of the qualities of yin is actually patience, okay? So when we think of the divine mother, you know, that's how we want to be. Those qualities of the divine mother, compassion and patience and serenity and abundance. And, you know, when we think of the archetypes of womanhood, we've got the maiden, and then we've got the mother, and then we've got the crone, which I prefer to call the wise woman. And so the maiden is the phase, obviously, where we have all of our youth, but we don't have any of our wisdom. And then the mother phase is the one where we're supposed to come into that full bloom, into abundance, you know. And then the wise woman phase is where we're able to kind of give back of our life experience. And I've only actually heard one acupuncturist ever talk about these archetype phases in terms of on top, like a holograph, that system, that lens on top of the lens of Chinese medicine, and explaining menopause through that lens in a Chinese medicine kind of way. And that particular teacher went straight from maiden to wise woman, okay? So where's this motherhood phase, okay? Now motherhood is the phase I'm actually in right now, and so perhaps this is an invitation as well for me to focus more on the motherhood phase. I was messaging with someone earlier, and they said that when they took my menopause quiz, they couldn't answer any of the questions because it starts off with the question about your sleep. And then it's like, well, actually, my sleep is only disturbed because of my children. It's not me that can't sleep. It's just that my children wake me up. And so you can't really answer those questions about sleep because it's not a true reflection of what your health is actually doing in that moment. And so I feel like there is an invitation here for me to focus a big message on motherhood and help for mothers, okay? But it doesn't really matter what phase you're in, guys, because I see a lot of menopausal women in my clinic, and then they'll talk to me, and then they'll send their daughters to me, and their daughters are teenagers that are struggling in different ways, and it's the same solution every time. It's be more yin, okay? Now, I'm fortunate, extremely fortunate to have met the mentors that I've had throughout my life. So the menopause focus and specialism has really only come in since 2020. And however, before that, starting from starting from 1999. Starting from 1999, I've been blessed and fortunate to have the most amazing spiritual mentors. And so the kind of teaching that was the wisdom, part of the wisdom, not all of it. Obviously, I could never tell you all of it, even if I talked to you for 100 years. But part of the teaching that was imparted to me back in those days, and how old was I in 1999? 18, 19, daily practice. A daily practice of meditation so that you can rise above the gravitational force field of collective human consciousness. And you can, it's almost like taking a daily shower. You wouldn't dream of leaving the house without cleaning your teeth. And, you know, most of us have a shower every day, okay? You wouldn't dream of not washing your body. So how are you washing your mind? How are you cleansing your energy field, okay? And so by cleansing your mind, you remain more present and available. And then by cleansing your energy field, you remain brighter and you can like rise above. You can rise above that collective force field. Okay, which, you know, when we look on the collective kind of level, isn't too harmonious at the moment. Okay, so we don't want to be getting sucked into that. And part of how we don't get sucked into that, but yet, so it's not like ignore it, not like, oh, you know, become an ostrich and stick my head in the sand. Actually cleanse my energy field so that I can be more present and more available to serve, and more, you know, the more light we can bring into this world, the better. Okay, and so it all starts with being more yin. That is it. There is no better way of saying it. There's no better, it couldn't be more simple. It could not be more simple. A lot of people say, oh, but I can't clear my mind, this is why I can't do it. Okay, well, if we think about it in terms of it's your daily shower, it's your daily release, it's your daily cleanse, then part of that might look like a little bit of muddy thinking. You know, your mind might become a little bit more busy in that time when you're meditating, which is actually part of the process. And then later in the day, you feel the benefit of it the most. And then if you keep going with it, you get that moment where it takes over and it becomes who you are. Okay, so this is the other piece, is that a lot of people will say to me, oh, I'm already doing all the right things. Okay, I'm already doing so much, I'm already doing all the right eating, and I'm already trying to meditate, and I'm already doing it all. And I would say, lovingly, it's not what you do, it's who you be when you're doing it. Okay, so being more yin is more about who you're being, not about what you're doing. Okay, it's a beingness. And that's what feminine energy is. It's a being. And the feminine energy is a receptive energy. So if we're constantly on the go and we're giving everywhere, when are we receiving? Okay, and how do we even receive? When we do our daily practice of being more yin, we receive from the environment, we receive from nature, we receive from the present moment, because the present moment is the eternal now. It's the only time there is. That means all energies exist now. Every frequency that you want to experience is available to you now. But if you're not here, you can't receive it. Okay? Because that's what manifesting is all about. We think we want a physical thing or a physical circumstance change because it'll make us feel a different way. But the feeling is a frequency, and the frequency is available now. So this is where we consciously align with the frequencies that we want to embody more, and we become them. And then that's part of being more yin. And then we be them, and then we attract very different people, circumstances, opportunities, events into our lives. Okay, now the final thing I want to say on this video today, when you look at my Facebook page, and you may have seen it all already, all of the new things I've released recently, it's not your hormones, it's your blah, blah, blah. And then the quiz will tell you what the blah, blah, blah is, okay? But the one that I've got on my cover photo on my Facebook page is, it's not your hormones, it's your liver, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, it is the liver, okay? And like, what made me say it like that? It was a recurring thought. So every woman that would sit in front of me at the clinic or online or wherever in a consultation, every woman that would sit in front of me in a consultation would tell me, I'm come because of my hormones. My hormones are causing this, that, the other, and they would list the symptoms, and it would all be kind of like, it's my hormones. And in my head, I would always be thinking, it's not your hormones, it's your liver. It's your liver, okay? So when we think about all that liver heat, the overthinking, the overwhelm, the muscle cramps, the brain fog, the hot flushes, the inflammation, the angry outbursts, it's all the liver. The migraines, okay? Liver. There are 5 yin organs though, okay? Liver, heart, lungs, spleen and kidneys, okay? And we're all born a constitutional type. So you might have been born a kidney constitution, a water element type. Okay, so there'll be a relationship going on between your kidneys and your liver. Okay, and then the same for all the other organs, which is what the quiz will help you to identify is your kind of like either your root cause organ or the one that just needs the most support right now. Okay, guys. So as an acupuncturist, as a specialist in sort of like 5-element acupuncture specifically, it's a honed skill to actually diagnose someone correctly. Okay, so you couldn't really tell from a short quiz what your ultimate element type is, you know, your constitutional type. But what this quiz will help you identify is what organ needs the most support right now. And usually when we give the support to the most out of balance organ in the now, it's like a domino effect, and then all the other organs will benefit from that. So the quiz helps you to identify that. Okay, guys? I had no plan of what I was going to say today. That's all just come out like, bleh. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly feel good for sharing it. And let's continue this conversation. All right, guys, because this is the message. This is the message. So now, having heard all of this, when you go back out on the internet and you see all of this stuff that people talk about, I just don't know. I don't know. We've got a lot of work to do. All right, guys. It makes me so, I think angry is the wrong word, because I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. So passionate to help women understand that menopause is not a disease. You don't get diagnosed with perimenopause. Most of your perimenopause symptoms are actually coming from stress and exhaustion. And the ultimate solution is to be more yin. Okay? And I am your guide. So thank you so much for listening to me today, guys. I love you. And I'll see you very soon.